Welcome to the Legacy Network, bppaln.org, the Party Report. I am Eseibio Holiday. As Pope Francis visits South Sudan today, 27 people, including 5 children, were killed in clashes between cattle herders and militia members on Thursday. The Vatican said the Pope's visit came in the hopes of revigorating a troubled peace processes following a decade of conflict in South Sudan since its establishment in 2011. The Pope's visit comes after he spent the week in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where more than 1 million worshippers attended his mass in Kinshasa. He condemned the simultaneous exploitation and neglect of the region by Western powers. Quote, "The poison of greed has smeared his diamonds with blood. This is a tragedy to which the economically more advanced world often closes its eyes, ears, and mouth. Yet this country and this continent deserve to be respected and listened to. They deserve to find space and receive attention. Hands off the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hands off Africa. Stop choking Africa. It is not a mine to be stripped or terrain to be plundered." Unquote. On Thursday, protesters gathered outside Kinshasa's Notre Dame Cathedral to denounce systematic sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. Advocates are drawing attention to the case of a 14-year-old girl who was raped by a priest in the DRC and demanding the church apply a 2019 law enacted by the people to hold bishops accountable for sex abuse or for covering up. This is Tim Laws, founder of Ending Clergy Abuse. This is what he had to say. Quote, "What happened after the abuse was reported to the bishop. The good sisters and priests that reported it all got fired and the order disbanded, and the girl has left the country in fear of her life. If the Pope doesn't enforce this law, he's sending a message throughout all of Africa. Bishops, if it doesn't matter, do if the Pope doesn't enforce this law, he's sending a message throughout all Africa to all his bishops. If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Do what you want to do. If he enforces this law, he sends a message that he cares about the African children." Unquote. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has welcomed the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to Kyiv for talks on Ukraine's push to join the European Union. Officials have said Ukraine's ascension to the 27-member bloc will be, at minimum, take several more years as Ukraine needs to ensure more anti-corruption measures. At Thursday's summit, Van Leyen also said the Commission will set up a dedicated office at The Hague to prosecute war crimes committed by Russia during its war in Ukraine. Her remarks came as Russian President Vladimir Putin compared Russia's invasion of Ukraine to the Battle of Stalingrad in World War II. Putin spoke at a ceremony in Volgograd commemorating the 80th anniversary of the Red Army's victory over Nazi forces. Quote, "Now, unfortunately, we see that the ideology of Nazism in its modern form and manifestation once again directly threatens the security of our country. Again and again, we have to repel aggression of the West." Unquote. It is believed possibly more than 200,000 Russian soldiers have died in Ukraine on Capitol Hill. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans have removed Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman member Ilhan Omar from Foreign Affairs Committee after accusing her of anti-Semitism. Omar has been outspoken in her support of Palestinian rights, and has been repeatedly accused by Republicans and some Democratic leaders for questioning U.S.-Israeli relations and criticizing the power of AIPAC. The Israeli lobby in Washington, Congressmember Omar spoke from the House floor after 218 Republicans voted to strip her committee assignments in Thursday's party line. She had this to say, quote, "I didn't come to Congress to be silent. I came to Congress to be their voice in my leadership. To be the voice in my leadership, and my voice will not be diminished. If I am not on the committee for one term, my voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been." Unquote. Congressmember Omar Ilhan came to the United States as a refugee after her family fled civil war in Somalia. She's one of the first Muslim women to serve in the House. Democrat accused Republicans of political retribution over the removal of far-right Congress member Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar from their committee assignments in the last Congress due to their violent racist rhetoric. In 2021, Congressmember Gosar became the first lawmaker to be censored in more than a decade for posting an animated video on social media where he murders Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and attacks President Biden. This is Congressmember Ocasio-Cortez speaking from the House floor on Thursday. Quote, "Justice Committee, the committee assignments in this Congress don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks. When you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and entire amounts of troops, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments. In this body, this is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me because I didn't get a single time has expiring my life frustrating. Thank you, meanwhile." Unquote. Meanwhile, the House approved a bipartisan resolution Thursday to, quote, "denounce the horrors of socialism." The non-binding measures passed with the support of every Republican. 109 Democrats voted yes, 86 voted no, 14 voted. President Wisconsin Democratic Mark Popkin, who voted no, said, quote, "This resolution is plain ridiculous. It jointly condemns Poi Plot Norway." He said he accused Republicans of staging the vote to pressure Democrats to accept cuts to Social Security and Medicare. In immigration news, nearly 1,000 asylum seekers seeking families remain separated after their children were forcibly taken at the U.S.-Mexican border. Under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy, that's according to the Homeland Security Department, which reported on Thursday that a task force created by the Biden administration has only been able to reunite some 689 children with their parents and relatives, and estimated 5,000 migrant children were separated from their families during Trump's time in office. Thousands have since been found and reunited with loved ones, largely due to the work of advocacy groups like the ACLU. President Biden has vowed to stop the practice and to pay reparations to the families separated by Trump but his administration has now refused to pay restitution, while data shows Biden's immigration officials have separated hundreds of families at the southern border. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus met with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House on Thursday, a day after the funeral of Tyree Nichols. This is Nevada Democrat Stephen Horsman, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Quote, the death of Tyree Nichols The death of Tyree Nichols is yet another example of why we do need action, but you've already led on the action that we've been able to take through executive order. We need your help to make sure we can get the legislative actions that are necessary to save lives and to make public safety the priority that is needed to be for all communities in New Jersey. Unquote. In New Jersey, a 30-year-old councilwoman was shot dead in her car outside her home on Wednesday in the town of Eseibio, New Jersey. Eunice was selected in 2001. She was remembered by a colleague as someone who, quote, wanted to make a better community for all our children, unquote. The identity of the killer, the motive is unknown. She leaves behind a young daughter and her husband. A federal court has struck down a ban on gun ownerships for some perpetrators of domestic violence. The ruling by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals relies on an antiquated interpretation of gun laws and comes as the U.S. is seeing a surge in gun violence. The Gun Violence Archive says that there were 52 mass shootings last month, making it the deadliest January since it started tracking such data. A 2021 study found over two-thirds of mass shootings are either domestic violence incidents or perpetrated by shooters with a history of domestic violence. The Justice Department said it plans to appeal Thursday's ruling. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, at least two Republican lawmakers, including embattled New York Congress member George Santos, have been spotted wearing an AR-15 pin on their labels. The Office of Florida Congressperson Anna Paulina Luna said the shocking accessory is meant to promote a gun bill, though it's unclear which bill that is. And the Biden administration released Guantanamo Bay detainee Magic Khan after nearly 20 years in custody. In 2021, Khan became the first Guantanamo prisoner to testify in the open court about the torture methods used by the CIA at its network of secret black sites, where Khan was detained from 2003 to 2006. This is a Bar Osmi, legal director of the Center for Constitutional Rights, speaking to the Legacy Network. Quote, Magic Khan, to his credit, detailed the systematic, brutal, sadistic tortures of the U.S. government officials, namely the CIA, which for nearly 20 years the U.S. government has tried to keep secret. Unquote. Khan's lawyer said in a statement, Guantanamo's national shame. We hope that today is another step forward towards its ultimate closure. The men languishing in Guantanamo who've been cleared for release must be transferred indefinite detention to a just society. Must be transferred. Indefinite detention is asthma to a just society. They said Magic Khan's arrived in Belize on Thursday, which has agreed to permanently resettle him. His release came as the United Nations announced it's sending human rights officials to the Guantanamo military prison for the first time ever. The U.S. continues to hold 34 men at Guantanamo. Only 11 of them have been charged in military tribunals. And those are some of the headlines. This is the Legacy Network, bppaln.org, the Legacy Report. As usual, the question is, where do you go from here?